What up, man? It's your big brother K-Rino, and I'm sitting here wondering: is it finally happening? Is it finally happening? And where artists are starting to understand that they don't necessarily need a big label in order to be successful, having that big machine behind them, and it's been kind of growing for the last few years or so, but it's still a few stragglers hanging on to the. I won't call them stragglers. I'm not gonna say that because if that's a path that opens up for you and you feel like it's best for you, then who am I to say that you're wrong? Because I don't know what level of understanding you got where you go in or what you bring in, so I can't say that. But I will say I'm always in favor of artists um, freeing themselves from that umbrella, from under that umbrella, if possible, because in the end, most of the time, no matter how successful that you may become as an artist, the label is always gonna be the winner. The machine is always gonna prevail over the artist. And people say, well, no, man, a lot of people have made millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, that's true, but I always think about comparing what you did make to what you could have made. Um, in this day's social media climate that we live in, uh, there are pros and cons to social media. If you use your intelligence, your ingenuity, your creativity, and you got some hustle and some grind in you, then you can absolutely use these platforms in a way that can free you, that can build you up, that can create a lane and a space for you that can become lucrative, but at the same time, you will maintain a degree of freedom that you may not have had you been on a major label. Now, some people say, well, oh, no, man, but you can't, you don't have the resources. You don't have the backing. You don't have that big machine behind you. You may not, but I've seen too many people, a lot of young people, become the machine. And I think that should be the thought process coming in, not to necessarily incorporate yourself into the machine or into the system, but to become the machine and become the system. And once you do that, that changes everything. That changes everything from a standpoint of being an employee compared to being the boss. And I've been seeing a lot of different artists start to go away from that label world. They're starting to go more into, hey man, I can do this myself. I can uh, take my name and take my hustle and my grind and build a fan base for myself, an audience through social media or whatever means you choose. I always think that that's the best way to go in the long run because it's going to always it represents you're going to have ownership, you're going to have control, creative control, and you put yourself into a power position, meaning that once you become that boss and you get to those levels, now you can employ people. You can put people to work, and hopefully, when you reach that power position, you will carry yourself in a way that's contrary to the way that the labels have traditionally carried themselves as it relates to how they deal with other artists. You always want to be with other artists the way that you would want a label to be with you if you get to that point. Because every rapper, I won't say every singer, you don't really see singers doing it that much to my knowledge, but every rapper, no matter even if they are on a big label, they're gonna have a subsidiary label that's theirs. Oh yeah, I'm such such, but I'm still Rough Dog Entertainment, or you're gonna always, because that desire is in you to be that boss, to be that CEO, but it's hard to do so when you are handcuffed by this major that no matter how much you brag about being a boss, you're really not. So growing to that point and not having, and this is the key point, not having that fear and that feeling that there's no possible way that you can make it without the assistance and without the backing of a major, that's something that we gotta dismiss off the rip. You can't even come in with that kind of apprehension. You got to know, hey man, I can get this done. And will it be some lean times? Absolutely, because you're incurring all of the costs. When you do it yourself, you are doing it yourself. Everything, everything is on your shoulders. But I think that real bosses and boss minded individuals, I feel like they wouldn't have it any other way because you're not living in the current moment when you work in your plan. You're not living in the current moment. You better yet, you're not just thinking in the current moment. You're thinking down the line. You're visualizing and seeing what you and your company is going to be down the line. So if you're in a moment where it's kind of rough now, then okay, you understand that, but you know that we just passing through this little patch. And if you keep that in mind, then you'll absolutely get to a point one day. If you stay on that journey, you'll absolutely get to a point one day where, okay, yeah, I had to do what I had to do. I took some hits, took some losses, I made some mistakes, spent some money, lost some money, whatever it is. But the vision kept you accelerating towards the ultimate goal. So artists are getting on the inside of these labels and they seeing how they really operate. They seeing that the labels don't have their best interest at heart. The labels are only seeing how much money they can get out of you, how they can work you, and there's not even a concept of longevity in the mind of the major labels no more as it relates to an artist. They're thinking we're gonna get this guy for a couple of years, milk him out. Um, he might crash out on his own. All these different things, they just looking for the next. Soon as they sign you, they already got their mind on the next. They it's like being in line at a store. It's like next, 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 next. Get them in, get them out, make what you can make. So a lot of artists on the inside are starting to see how the labels are moving, and they either getting out or they not even going down that road in the first place. Young people are becoming millionaires on the internet while they in their teens, just doing content, doing music, doing short clips that pop off and lead to fan bases, followings, and finance. So keep that in mind as you move forward, man, and don't get so caught up. This ain't 1970 no more. This ain't the 80s or the 90s no more, where that was the only game in town. The label was the only game in town. If we're not having an innovative mindset to know that there's other ways we can get this thing done, then we trapped in the past. Not knocking you if you go down that route, but just go down that route, with as much wisdom as you can. All right, it's your big brother K-Rino. I'll catch y'all a little bit later on. Peace.